Good morning, dear students. Now we have the second poem, Byzantium. And Byzantium is a highly philosophic poem. And moreover, the poem is noted for its obscurity. The poem was written in 1930 and it was published in 1932. And this poem, it is noted for obscurity. That is, it is not very clear. You can see different types of interpretations to this poem. Actually, when the poem was published, many people asked Yeats about the meaning and significance of the poem. They asked the writer what he means by this poem. What is the clear theme of the poem? Because it was very difficult for the people to understand the real meaning. Then Yeats wrote a second poem, a companion poem, as a sequel to the first, that is called Sailing to Byzantium. And this Sailing to Byzantium was written to explain the first poem, Byzantium. But the fun is that the second poem was simple, self-explanatory, but it doesn't explain the Byzantium poem. And so this is the one that we are going to study. Clear? And so Byzantium is a highly philosophic poem written by William Butler Yeats. It was written in the year 1930 and was published in the year 1932. And this poem, I told you, it is noted for its obscurity. It's very difficult to get into the meaning of the poem. And when the poet wrote it, many asked him to explain the poem. And he wrote a second poem called Sailing to Byzantium to explain the first. But the second one, Sailing to Byzantium, is self-explanatory. It doesn't explain the first poem. And so now we are going to analyze this poem, Byzantium. Some people used to pronounce it Byzantium. But I feel that the better pronunciation is Byzantium. And so here, what is this poem about? Well, see, there are different interpretations for this poem. But we are trying to explain it in our own way. Actually, the subject of this poem is the nature of the final escape from the round of incarnation, reincarnation. Understood? The subject of this poem is the nature of the final escape from the round of reincarnation. Actually, see, it is about, this poem is about the soul of a person. And you know that at the time of death, what happens is that soul alone begins its upward journey. When a person dies, when you and me die, what happens? That is the body which we got from this earth. It will return to the elements, isn't it? You needn't have to worry about the body part. But leaving the body here, the soul alone begins its upward journey. And we study about this upward journey of the soul. Where is the soul going? The individual soul is going to get united with the universal soul. That is the soul of God. And so there is a clear condition for the individual soul to get united with the divine. What is it? That is, the soul should be pure. Only a clean and pure and chaste soul can get united with the soul of God. And so, see, after living for years in this earth, we know that because of our activities in this earth, see, our soul will be tainted. Our soul will be having sports over it. And only with a clean soul you can reach heaven. What is heaven? It is not a definite place, but it is a state. What is heaven? To get united with the Lord is heaven. And to be away from Lord is hell. Understood? And so you should not consider hell and heaven as two separate buildings or something like that. Actually, they are two situations. What is heaven? Your soul getting united with the Lord, that is heaven. And your Lord your soul is away from the Lord, that is hell. And so the soul, see, God doesn't want to spare any soul. The universal oversoul will be complete when all the individual souls get united to it. And so this is a philosophic concept. You have to understand that. And so the individual soul, and so at the time of death, the soul alone begins its upward journey. And what is it going to do? The soul should get united with the Lord. It should get united with the universal soul, the soul of God. And the body is left out here. What we got from this earth will return to the earth. And so the body will return to the elements. We needn't have to worry about the body part. It is like the dress that we wear, and we leave it aside when you don't need it. And we begin our upward journey with the soul alone. And so the soul, what is the intention of the soul? Salvation or achieving moksha. What is moksha? Getting united with the Lord. What is heavenly experience? Getting associated with the divine. And so, before reaching God, our soul should be pure and chaste. And so it has to undergo several purifying processes. And once the purification is complete, your soul will become fit to get united with the Lord. And so here you are getting the picture of an initiated observer. It can be the poet himself. He is watching the uninitiated soul, it undergoing different types of process. See, the condition is that our soul should become pure. And so sometimes you have to take up birth and rebirth. And in some other philosophical poems, it says that before taking a rebirth, the soul will undergo a purification process and will be reborn. Understood? But here, in this poem called Byzantium, he talks about the purgatory which purifies the soul and makes it fit to get united with the Lord. And throughout the poem, you can see the poet talking about the complex nature of human beings. He says that human being is actually every individual is a bundle of contradictions and complexities. And within our mind, always there is a great tension going on. Are the desires of the flesh and the desires of the soul. There is all, see, when you are in this earth, when we are in this earth, we are tempted to follow the desires of our body. But we know that desires of the soul are eternal, long-lasting, everlasting. And so there is always a clash between good and evil. Similarly, there is always a clash between the flesh and the spirit. There is a clash between the desires of the flesh and the desires of the body. And so that forms the key point of this poem. Remember, it is the poem Byzantium is a highly philosophical, obscure poem which deals with the individual soul going through levels of reincarnation, purification, and finally getting free from all the frailties of flesh, becoming all pure, chaste, and finally getting united with the Lord. And so the poem Byzantium, as I have said, it is about the soul and how the tainted soul becomes pure by undergoing the purgatorial dance. And now we will begin with the poem. I hope you have the text with you. And there are 5 stanzas for this poem. And so the subject of this poem is the nature of the final escape from the round of reincarnation. It is about the purification of the human soul. And so remember, the poem Byzantium has 5 stanzas. And the first stanza is set in the city of Byzantium. And so Byzantium has its own significance, or Byzantium becomes a symbol in this poem. That is, first of all, remember, there was a city called Byzantium, which was a part of the ancient Roman Empire, and Byzantians are the Greek-speaking Romans. And so here, Byzantium city is presented as a perfect city. And so Byzantium, more than a place, it is presented as a symbol. And the Byzantium symbol has different meanings in the different stanzas of the poem. In the beginning, Byzantium, in stanza 1, it stands for the city of Byzantium. And in stanzas 3 and 4, Byzantium gets transformed into purgatory. And so, always remember, Byzantium is presented as a perfect city, golden city. And so, you will understand how this Byzantium floor becomes the purgatorial platform for the unpurged souls, for the unpurified souls. Understood? And so remember, Byzantium in stanza 1 is a city. In stanzas 3 and 4, it is said that Byzantium is a perfect city, the golden city of Byzantium. where you have beautiful golden trees, golden birds, and so on. Everything is perfect and changeless in that city. You know that gold is a changeless metal. Nothing will happen to gold. Even if you put gold in fire, it is refined again. Nothing will happen to the gold. And so, in the golden city of Byzantium, you will see golden trees, golden boughs, golden birds, and so on. And they won't undergo any change. The reason is that they have attained perfection. And in the Byzantium city, everything is perfect. It doesn't undergo any change. And so, now comes the point. How the soul can be purified. The soul which comes to the purgatorial floor with plenty of stains over it. How is it purified? It is purified on the floors of Byzantium. There Byzantium meaning gets altered. At the floor of Byzantium refers to the purgatorial floor, where there are flames all the time. See, but these flames are not destructive. It is said that these flames won't even burn your slave. The point is that the purgatorial fire is redemptive. Purgatorial fire doesn't destroy anything, but it purifies the human soul, makes it perfect. Just as gold is refined by fire, your soul, your tainted soul, is purified by the purgatorial flames, purgatorial fire. And so remember, Byzantium initially is a city, but later it becomes a symbol of perfection, perfect city. And then Byzantium becomes a perfect place. The Byzantine floor becomes a perfect place. It gets transformed into a purgatorial platform where impure souls are purified. And so, when we begin with the poem, bear in mind this meaning. And now you have the text with you. See, I will just go through. The unpurged images, unpurged meaning impure, ugly, unpleasant, images of they recede, withdraw. The emperor's drunken soldiery are abed, has gone to bed. And so, remember, in stanza 1, you are getting a picture of the city of Byzantium at midnight. Remember the point? You are getting the picture of Byzantium city at midnight. What happens at midnight? All the impure images of the day recede. The unpleasant things of the day all disappear at midnight. Why? See, during daytime, people are moving about, making lot of sound. Even in the evening, in the night, people are roaming about the streets, involving themselves in many activities, many criminal activities. Prostitutes are moving about through the city. Okay, but after the midnight bell, that is after midnight, the streets become free. The streets become pure. It becomes devoid of human beings.